A powerful drug cartel from Mexico has taken root in southern Ontario. How they got here is outlined in a new book, The Wolfpack. Authors Peter Edwards and Louise Najera join us now with more. And Louise, before we begin, we should mention that you are in Canada now because of death threats made against you, working as a journalist doing stories on organized crime in Mexico.
Yes, that's the reason I'm here. Good morning.
Right. So are you living here now permanently? And with this cartel moving up here, do you fear for your life here?
Well, that's an interesting question, but it's one of the risks that you have to face as a journalist here or in Mexico or everywhere in the world. But yeah, I'm comfortable here, but you never know. So you have to keep your eyes open always.
Right, and Peter, I want to bring you in here because you teamed up with Louise because this Wolfpack, whole different breed of criminals and not the smartest ones, and they kind of allowed, once they were all arrested, that's how the cartels moved in, basically, right?
I think the cartels wanted a group that they could manage. Like, I think they wanted people who they thought were smart enough to do the job, but not ones who could get the upper hand on them. I think probably what the Wolfpack learned was that the weakest link will sink them all, and so I think they'll be more careful in the future.
Right. So let's talk about some of the members of the Wolf Gang here, because there are quite a few in the Niagara region.
It kind of makes sense because the drugs, it's a good route to bring them in through Buffalo. There's a lot of trucks. There's a lot of cover because there's so much mainstream commerce. There's a lot of storage facilities. So to bring them Chicago, Buffalo, through Niagara and into Toronto is kind of a logical route for trucking.
Right, and Niagara is where Nick Nero was working. He was incarcerated for a number of crimes. Let's talk about Nick, described by one police officer as being as stupid as a bag of hair.
Yeah, it's almost unfair to the bag of hair to say that, but he was extremely ambitious, someone who wanted to be a massive power and couldn't take direction, but he had a lot of money, and so that kind of bought his way into the game. I think other people thought they could control him. He was a guy who it's better to have him as an unstable friend than an enemy.
Right, and the whole thing with the Wolfpack is that they didn't want to be like the old guard of organized crime, especially in Canada, where, they were kind of discreet, not flashy, and they never ratted anyone out.
Yeah, I think Louise can speak to that quite a bit, because what I learned from Louise a lot on working on this project was the effect of the internet on criminal behavior. Mm-hmm. Maybe I should throw that one over to him.
Over to you, Louise.
Oh, thank you. Times change, right? And this new generation is more prone to use electronic communications. They are more, let's say, flamboyant in their behavior. They like to be, influencers. They like to show their lives, to present their lives constantly on social media. So that's one characteristic of this new generation of criminals, and particularly this one, the Wolfpack Alliance is a clear example of how they didn't respect some unwritten rules of organized crime, so to speak, which is you don't rat, or you don't speak about your friends or your colleagues, and also you have to live in a very discreet way in order not to bring the attention of the authorities, especially when you are dealing with a lot of drug and a lot of money.
Right, and with the cartel here now, how big of an influence is most of the coke that's on the streets now, is it from Mexico and brought through the cartel?
Yes, the drugs coming from cocaine is produced in the Andean region, Bolivia, Colombia, Peru. But yeah, the big player now here, it's the Mexican organized crimes groups. And they are here, and they, as Peter mentioned, they look for groups that they have a lot of ambition. They think of themselves as very smart, powerful people, but they were basically useful for them just to allow them to establish here in Canada.
Right, right. Louise and Peter, thank you very much for the work that you did on the Wolfpack, and thanks for joining us this morning. It's a fascinating read with kind of tendrils across the country, but mainly in the Golden Horseshoe. So it is out now.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, thank you.